First of all, my understanding is, and it is the understanding of a couple of folks here who have spoken, but I wish I frankly had heard it more frequently, it was never the Plenty administration's intention to abandon these people forever. It was a matter of, look, we have severe budget problems, healthcare costs are going crazy, healthcare costs in this particular program are out of whack, so we unallotted, or at that point that was a veto, I do believe, with the full understanding that the players would get together and try to make things better. And I'm gathering, especially from Michael's remarks, that is precisely what is happening, and that is good news. I do believe, if one was talking about principles, everyone should get good and prompt health care. And while this is theoretically and even practically possible without everyone having health insurance, everyone should, in fact, have health insurance. Now, that's a straightaway comment, and under other circumstances, I would just let it be. But if the subject today, as it is politics and political impediments, as we all know, one of the stumbling blocks in Washington is whether or not people who are in this country illegally will be covered by whatever comes out of the new plan. Now, you may find that reprehensible. Whatever you may find it, it is a political fact of life, and it has to be attended to. It seems to me that the economic situation we're in is not primarily a rotten one because of the recession of the last year and a half or so, and General Motors is having a tough time, and Wall Street almost committed suicide, and the rest. It's far deeper, far longer than that. At the center, we're pursuing under the rubric of stopping boomer healthcare budgets from going bust, trying to think through what does it mean when, and just about everyone in the room, I trust, understands the basic dynamics with boomers retiring, people like me getting frail, falling apart. When it comes to Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, the numbers simply don't compute. Whatever bad numbers we have now, I would argue, they pale in terror to what is coming. We are in a fundamentally new era in this nation economically and therefore in other ways. And it seems to me implicit in that is that we will be perpetually forced to reconceive how we do business in healthcare and in other ways. And perpetual cuts of one kind or another are probably part of the package as well. So let's say, for the sake of argument, one has the political power and the opinion to raise taxes. Let's say we seek to raise and accomplish a $1 billion tax increase. Now, that's real money. That is still only about 20% of the problem. If we were to raise taxes, you could make an argument that it would make some things better. I trust it would, but it wouldn't even get to the heart of the problem, and that is the heart of the problem. It's not necessarily, or if at all, a matter of insufficient concern with the plight of people in difficult situations. I really don't think it is a matter of cold hearts. It could have something to do with oversized expectations about the abilities of the people in question. I go back to questions of welfare reform in the mid-1990s. The people who were pushing hardest for welfare reform, and generally that was a matter of Republicans, seemed to me had more confidence in the ability of people who were on AFDC to get their lives in order if they were pushed along in tough, lovingly ways, whereas folks on the left were more likely to say, no, those folks are too damaged, they really can't hack it. Well, as we immediately saw with dropping welfare, many people who had been on welfare were now doing really pretty well. This time around, I think the opposite is the case. When it comes to people who are on or in GAMC, and we've seen the numbers, the very high proportion of folks who are mentally ill, the very high proportion of people who are chemically dependent, and the extraordinarily high proportion of people who are both mentally ill and chemically dependent. I think in this instance, it is necessary to say they cannot cope as well as people who were prodded off of welfare. We are indeed working with a different population. I am quite likely the only conservative think tank president in the known universe whose wife has run 3 homeless programs, including the Sheltered Our Saviors at 24th in Chicago. And in my own life, in our own life beyond, many of the stories that Monica talked about are stories in my own family. This is tough, tough stuff. And in part, I'm afraid it leads me to overstating the incapacities of many recipients of various services. And I recognize that can be a not very good thing, can be a patronizing thing. But whatever my biases may be, there are lots of exceedingly damaged people out there who simply need our help. One of the things I have attempted to do in the center of my life as a writer is not question motives. I'm not always perfect, but so much of the nastiness, it seems to me, out there has something to do with people in public life and outside of public life questioning motives of other folks. Not a good idea. I'm on the board of directors of the United Way. So is my friend, great friend and colleague, Peter Bell. Many of you know Peter Bell. I think we're the 2 designated conservatives on the board. And once the governor made some of the cuts, he did. Peter and I got together and we said, look, when government is cutting back on services of all kinds, as government has to, it's not just a matter of being cheap, then it is the obligation, not just of everyone at some level, but particularly of people on the right like Peter and myself, to step up further and urge our colleagues on the right to be a bit more generous when it comes to not just United Way giving, but other settings. Roger, and I go back with Roger to 1975, Red River days in Crookston. It was about 25 degrees below zero. We did a program about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, along with Steve Swigum, on how can politicians do useful things, I forget the exact title, without brutalizing each other. And it was a conversation that could have turned into goo, but it was really crisp and terrific. And I would urge you, God, I'm sneaky, go to the American Experiment website, and if you track down publications and you go to, I think it's 2008, under essays, you'll find it. Finally, I wrote a book about Al Quie 1.5 years ago, just about now. And one of the themes in the book, if one is talking about trying to bring folks together, is challenging your own team. It takes great bravery. Majority leaders do it. Speakers of the House have to do it all the time. Roger did it. Steve did it. You got to challenge your own folks. This is not easy, but it is essential. And the very last point, I refer back to Governor Quie again. When he ran for office, he would always in the morning pray for his opponent. Didn't pray that the opponent would win or lose. He would pray that, as he said, his opponent would have a meaningful experience. And one of the useful byproducts of this was that if he prayed for his opponent, he found it very difficult to be nasty to such a person. Pray.